Hey there, it's Jim and Debbie with another episode of the Midday Minute. Debbie, it's, as we were saying last time when we were coming off the kickoff of the summer series, it's a bit of a letdown to be back to our normal format, but I'll tell you what, these fancy new duds the clothes is wearing takes a little edge off that.
Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, really neat. We are getting high tech. The new intro bumper, and now these frames. What's next? Yeah, pretty sweet. In today's episode of the show, we're going to revisit the big announcement from Sunday's The Two Grands episode of the summer series about Phase 3 of the SIP, and we are going to review what's coming and share our thinking.
Yeah.
That's one of the things we try to do on the show is give you an insider's perspective of what happens at the foundation. So we'll let you know where we were coming from and why we made the decisions we made for those three programs, the three grant components: the Beacon Grants, the Promise Grants, and the Impact Grants.
That's right.
But first, we have some contest winners to announce.
We sure do. On Sunday night, Brad Sagesser tuned in and he commented using the hashtag #TheTwoGrands, and he is indeed our winner. So congratulations, Brad.
Brad has won a $500 donation to the charity of his choice. Brad, we will reach out to you, but you can also reach out to us. You can comment in the comments below if you're watching, or email us at enf@elks.org, and we will square that up, see what charity you'd like to support, and make that donation happen.
That's right.
And what about our comment contest winner from last week's episode of the Midday Minute?
Well, last week, Mr. Chris Wilkie commented using the hashtag ENFMidday, and he has won again. So congratulations to Chris.
Our second two-time winner in a row. My gosh. These guys are slaying giants.
Yes, they are.
Chris, $50 soft credit. Let us know what program you'd like to support, either in the comments below or by emailing enf@elks.org. Now, all he did was comment on the show with the hashtag ENFMidday. Another lucky viewer today has an opportunity to win $50 soft credit just by commenting on the episode. Maybe you can tell us what you think of the new frames or whether I should shave my beard. Tell you what, I'm getting a lot of pressure to do that.
Are you?
Yeah.
Is the pandemic over?
That's what I'm saying, right? I'm not shaving until we can, until we've licked this thing once and for all.
That's right. I stand with you in solidarity, though.
Right.
I am not your wife.
All right. All right. Hey, speaking of the comment contest, we need to do a little house cleaning. That's been a fun thing we've been doing on the show since, I don't even remember when we started, February, I think.
Mm-hmm.
We have 5 past winners who have not yet claimed their $50 soft credit donation prizes. So we need to do some housekeeping because we are nearing the end of our prize pool and we have to figure out whether we can put this money back in the pool or not. So I'm going to read off your 5 names. You guys have until Monday to claim your prize by either commenting below or contacting us at enf@elks.org and telling us how you would like us to apply your $50 soft credit. The 5 are Ed Furby, Sherry Michelson, Kira Wagner, Diane Shaw, and John Bowser. All right, you guys, let us know.
Get to it.
All right, let's talk about the big Phase 3 announcement. Debbie, first we'll start with the good news.
Yeah, the good news is we are super excited that on Saturday, August 1st, the Beacon Grants will launch in the amount of $3,500 this year. So we had already planned on increasing them to $3,000. The halcyon days of February 2020, when you were at the board meeting, they had approved a $3,000 grant. So that was big news. But this is bigger news because $3,500.
So our really plugged in middies will know that. They have already heard that we were increasing to $3,000 from $2,500, which is a nice 20% increase to the size of that budget.
Right.
Back in happier times.
Right.
But because of what we decided, because we decided not to roll out the Promise Grants and not to offer new Impact Grants, we are using that money to fund an additional $500 increase for the Beacon Grant. So we're talking about $3,500 grants now. That's a 40% increase over last year.
Right. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. $6.5 million is a big deal. And,
Right.
that's on top of what we've already done with the gratitude grants, April 1st, and then again, the spotlight grants, June 1st. So that's a lot of money we're getting out there to communities so that they can rise to the occasion to meet these needs.
Well, and also, it's the money is also coming with increased flexibility, because we
Yes.
recognize that many, if not most areas of the country, can't really safely serve their communities in active ways right now.
Right. I mean, it's certainly the name of the game, right? We've been talking about this now. What is this episode? I think 34,
34,
right?
that's right.
We
Yeah,
started at home, episode 18, I think in
that sounds
March,
right.
but
Yeah,
we've talked almost every week about how we are trying to step back from our policies and our guidelines to be as flexible as possible so that, we don't want to build any barriers to the, using these grants. We want everybody to be able to use them to meet the needs of communities, which are great right now.
right. So typically, Beacon grants were for active Elks-led projects serving your community,
That's
and it was
right.
supposed to be projects that for which you wanted the lodge to be known, and it was supposed to be an ongoing project that you would be doing year after year after year.
Right.
So why don't you tell people about the increased flexibility for Beacon grants this year?
Well, there's a few things, right? As you mentioned, all across the country, there are a lot of states and a lot of communities in which the pandemic, the coronavirus is seeing an uptick. So we don't think that that's a good time to be doing Elks-led in-person projects. So we are going to allow lodges to, if they can do it, great. If they can do it safely, great. Have at it, continue to do it. But if they can't, we will consider the use of the grant funds as a donation to an organization that you were already working with in the past, or a donation to an organization in your community who is, well suited to meet the needs of COVID and who's already on the front lines and addressing that. So being able to donate a Beacon grant has never happened before. So that's pretty flexible, right? We are
So
also,
I was going to say, as an example, let's say your lodge is partnering with the Boys and Girls Club, for
right.
example, and there was some sort of programming you were doing in support of the Boys and Girls Club or in partnership with the Boys and Girls Club. Can't do that right now, maybe, but maybe there are aspects of the Boys and Girls Club work that they are able to continue, and you would like to support that. It's an aspect of your project that they can continue on their own with our funds.
With our funds, that's right.
Right.
In addition, as you mentioned, the Beacon Grant project is the project that the lodge would be known for in the community, right? And it was an ongoing project, at least annually. We're allowing the grant to be able to be split up. So, you don't have to do it for just that one thing. You can do it, but if you've been doing something else, you had mentioned, Jim, we decided not to fund the promise grants this year. So instead, we have reallocated that money to increase the Beacon grants. So maybe there's some aspect of a promise grant that you used to do that you'd like to include in a Beacon grant, or maybe there's just something else you'd like to do with it that's, COVID relief related. And we encourage that as well. So that's another big change to our policy with the Beacon grants.
Because of the environment we're in. So
period, the end of story, right?
It might not look exactly the same next year, but we will cross next year's bridge when it comes. This is how we're adapting to the current environment.
Right.
So let's then pivot to promise grants, which we talked about. Now, a lot of people listening right now will think, "Oh, this is great. We're getting $1,000 more than we got last year," and that's true for the vast majority of the lodges. You now have $1,000 more available to you than you did last year. But there were 300 lodges last year that received promise grants, and not all, but almost all of those lodges used both the promise grant and a Beacon grant last year. I think all but 26. So a lot of those lodges are saying, "Yeah, you're giving us $1,000, but you just took away $2,500. So that's a net loss of $1,500 for us." But here's the thing: as we just talked about that flexibility, let me back up and say, longtime listeners, longtime middies, people who've listened to the podcast, and maybe even in some past episodes of this show have heard our long-term vision for the SIP, in which we've said that we, at some point, plan to phase out promise grants. And I want to be very clear, this is not that.
That's
right? We were not trying to jumpstart that vision. This decision is based strictly on practicality and reality.
right.
So as soon as we pivot to a willingness to accept projects that are donations instead of active projects, because like Beacon Grants, Promise Grants had to be an active project in which the Elks were actively serving their community, not just handing over money to another organization.
Right.
With as with what we've done with Gratitude Grants, Spotlight Grants, and Beacon Grants, we're now saying, listen, given the environment, keeping you all safe is paramount, right? We're gonna permit passive projects or donations. Now we're in a position where there is only 300 Promise Grants. That becomes, it's like one of those cash booths where you put somebody in, turn the air on, and there's money flying around, people grabbing at it.
Right.
Like we can no longer evaluate, X versus Y project, right? If we favor active versus passive, say, well, just say, yeah, in March we're going to do this, and hopefully it'll be better. And there's decisions we have to make as a grant maker that are very difficult when we're talking about a limited pool of grants.
Right, a limited pool of grants, and of course, because it's limited, it was first come, first served eligible projects, right? And like you said, there was a lot of them that have been going on for, more than a decade, right? Probably 15 years, because the Promise Grants actually preceded the Community Investments Program. But given the reality, we did not feel like it was the right course of action to take, where the I think you said the fastest typists get their application in and get a chance at that $2,500. So
exactly, because you said there may be a lodge that's saying, I'm not sure we can take on another active project. We're already tapped. But as soon as we say, hey, donations are okay, now that lodge is in play competing for those Promise Grant dollars. And the Promise Grant budget for us was $750,000.
Right.
And we just could not in good conscience award that kind of money based on which lodges were the fastest typists. It just did not seem right.
Exactly. So that kind of was a no-brainer for us as we were planning for phase 3.
And so we appreciate that this part of our decision is making 275 lodges unhappy, but it should be making more than 1,500 lodges very happy.
Right.
So,
and then the impact grants. The impact grants and what to do with those. That was the other, right.
Yeah,
that was the same.
Related.
We viewed that through the same lens, right? And so when we look at new projects, right? So we have 64 projects right now that we funded last fall to be held throughout the year of 2020. That was our class of 2020 impact grants. 64. I believe 14 of those last year were what were considered new projects. The rest of them were renewal, right? 50 of them were renewal projects. So they were either in year 2 or more. A lot of people will remember we introduced the impact intents a couple of years back. So we obviously haven't posted that. But when we were looking at this, as I said, we're looking at it through the same lens. We had to apply the same logic. And going forward with asking lodges to submit intents for new projects that would happen even in 2021 just didn't make sense to us. So instead, we've reallocated the new project money, which is I think about $200,000, right? For about up to 20 $10,000 projects.
Right.
So that also went to the Beacon Grant pool.
Right.
And now,
Right. Now, we said on the show that we would make a decision September 1st.
That's right.
On the renewals. But for those of you who are from one of those lodges, one of those 64 lodges, our intention is not to leave those projects hanging. So we're going to be reviewing the second quarter reports for each of those grantees and then figure out how we want to support them in 2021.
That's right. And so we'll make that announcement on or before September 1st.
Right. So that's the thinking. Next year, who knows what the SIP will look like next year.
Right.
It just depends on how quickly we can come out of this pandemic, when we can stop to it and turn things around and get back to doing the active service the Elks are accustomed to doing in their communities.
Yeah, I mean that's such a great reminder, Jim, that this is how we were approaching fiscal year 2021 just
Right.
this year. It doesn't mean that's going to be how it's going to go, be going forward. I want to also say that I meant to mention when we were talking about Beacon grants, you can also supersize your Beacon grant with a Spotlight grant if you have not already used that grant. So we've approved close to 500 Spotlight grants already, but if you haven't submitted yours yet, you can consider adding that $2,000 to your now $3,500 Beacon grant. So for $5,500.
Right.
And Megan mentioned that on Sunday, but I think it's important to mention that here as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, the bottom line is the lodge communities need a lot of help right now. And we have made available to every lodge $5,500 through the Spotlight grant and the Beacon grant. And most lodges also are eligible for a gratitude grant of at least $2,000. So.
Right. If people have questions, please just give us a call. We'll work toward a solution to getting something that's approvable.
And there's an article on the SIP website that talks about phase 3 too. That basically reiterates the things we just said. And we'll put a link right up over here. Mm-hmm. You can check that out as well. I guess that's about does it for phase 3, right?
That about does it for phase 3. I mean, again, flexibility is the key here, and we're trying to be as flexible as we can. And I think we've accomplished that. Now it's up to lodges to get onto the dashboard and apply for those grants.
And that opens at midnight on Saturday, right?
Midnight on Saturday, August 1st.
August 1st, so have at 'em. All right, so a couple things upcoming we should talk about. Right around the corner, August 5th, the Most Valuable Student Scholarship application goes live.
I know.
And you can take a break with our scholarships team on Facebook Live Friday at 10 a.m. Central.
That's right. Colleen Conrad and Jessica Carter will be on Facebook Live.
Okay. We've already said Beacon Grants opens on Saturday, so jump on those. Again, that's $3,500, right? Mm-hmm. And that's all I got. You got anything else?
Well, it was great seeing you on Sunday.
Yes.
Great talking to Bob and Paul and having the SIPsters kind of make our announcement for us.
I'm going to assume that all the people watching this show have already watched that show, but if you didn't,
if you haven't,
go check it out. It was really,
it's really good.
It was really good. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to the show on the 9th and seeing you again.
The Hoop Shoot Show.
The Hoop Shoot Show.
On August 9th, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, just a reminder to comment on this episode with the hashtag ENF Midday. Tell us what you think about the new frame. Tell us what you think of my beard. Tell us what you think about the SIP changes. And you will be entered into a drawing to win a $50 soft credit to the ENF funded program of your choice. If you've liked this episode of the show, give us a thumbs up. If you didn't, thumbs down. But either way, please share it far and wide with your social network so we can get the word out to more people. If you're not already a subscriber, please consider subscribing by hitting that button and tap the bell so you'll be notified every time we post new content. Until next time, thanks for watching.
Bye.